This week's parsha, we have Eile pekudai Mishkan Ha'edus. The Bnei Yisrael and the Midbar have contributed for the Mishkan, the Beis Hamikdash in the Midbar, and after all the money and donations came in, so Moshe Rabbeinu computes the sum total of whatever came in. He has and makes an inventory of the Mishkan, and so Eile pekudai Mishkan. These are the computations of the Mishkan Ha'edus, that was counted through Moshe, through Yisrael, ben Aaron HaKohen. And who constructed the Mishkan? B'Tzalel ben Uri ben Chur Lamata Yehuda. B'Tzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Chur from Yehuda, the most important of the Shvatim, from which Shevet kings came out. Asas Karashat Tziv Hashem es Moshe. The Itai and his associate, Eliyav ben Achisamach Lamata Dan. He is the lowest of the Shvatim, Dan, and he associates himself with B'Tzalel, the most important and celebrated of the Shvatim. And what is the secret of Dan's existing in Klal Yisrael? Because we already have in the past have said some very uncomplimentary things about Dan. Well, he is still part of Klal Yisrael. Achi Samach. He relies and leans on his brother. In other words, he is still part of Klal Yisrael. And Charash v'Chayshe v'Reikem v'Tcheres u'V'Agam, he was a craftsman. And then Moshe Rabbeinu counts all the gold which came in, and then all the silver which came in. And how much silver was there? V'Chesef pekudai Eida meyas kikal. There was 100 kikal. A kikal is, I don't know exactly how much a kikal is, but it's enough silver to stand 2 feet tall, 2 feet by 2 feet, by 3 feet, which is an amma by an amma and a half, and with 2 hollows in the center for the teeth of the krashim, the teeth of the board to fit in and be put in place there. So how much money came in? Meyas kikal, 100 kikal, the elef u'shvam meyas, v'chamishin v'shivim shekel v'shekel HaKodesh. There was more than 100 kikal. There was 1,775 extra besides the eshkalim, besides those 100 kikal. And this was contributed as Bekal Agugailas, Machzas HaShekel B'Shekel HaKodesh, Mibanas Mishana V'Amala, B'Sheish Meyes Elef, V'Shleishes Elefim, V'Chamesh Meyes V'Chamishin. If 600,000 Jews each gave a Machzas HaShekel, they still had, those 600,000 Machzas HaShekels made up 100 kikal. But there were more than 600,000 Jews. There was 3,550 extra, above 3,000. So they gave each one a half of a shekel, which is a half of the sum which is extra, which amounts to 1,775. So what did Moshe Rabbeinu do with that silver? V'hi miyas kikar hakesef, letzekes hasadni hakodesh v'sadni hapareiches, miyas hadanim ramas hakikar, kikar le'adam. He melted the silver, and he formed 100 adanim, 100 sockets for these krashim, and in each Adan, in each socket went in a kicker of silver. but he had more than the amount of silver which is necessary for 100 kikar, because if 600,000 Jews give for 100 kikar, so they have 100 kikar. But there were more than 600,000 Jews, so therefore there is some extra silver. What did he do with the extra silver? And the 1,775 extra shkalim, he made hooks for the pillars. The tzipar hashayim, he plated the heads with silver. V'chishak oisam, and he had a little spiral of silver going up the entire. A strip of silver went up like a spiral on the entire amud, on the entire pillar. So, the Medrash tells us that the Litzani Hadaya, I would like to call the Litzani Hadaya the wise guys of the Daya, the wise guys of that generation. You always have Litzanim, those who ridicule, those who are Mavatal, those who just, they frown on something, and they emanate a feeling of being Mavatal, of rendering something unimportant, rendering somebody not a fine person or whatever. It's easy to do it. It's as easy as pie. You just make one little remark and at the expense of somebody else, and that person already loses his stature. That's the kayach of litzanis, of ridiculing, of the innocent word in the dictionary, humor. And the Gemara says that the Leitzim are among the four groups, those jokers, that are four groups that don't merit to be welcomed by the Shechina HaKadoshah when the time comes to pass on into the higher world. They're not Mekabel Pnei HaShechina. There is very much danger in humor. Humor could be used for very good things, to cheer up somebody, as long as it's not mischievous humor, as long as it's not on somebody's expense, not ridiculing somebody or something. But once it's used to ridicule something, then it's very dangerous and it's very destructive. So the Litzani Hadaya, the jokers of the generation, they made a little crack, a wisecrack at Moshe Rabbeinu. They said he became rich, because after all, he was the Gabbai, he was the collector of all these monies and contributions which came in. So he profited by it. He became rich on it. Of course, everybody knew about the honesty of Moshe Rabbeinu. There wasn't one Jew in Klal Yisrael who had any doubts about his honesty, about his integrity. Way back several weeks, almost a year before this building of the Mishkan in Mitzrayim, when all the Jews were busy gathering riches from the Rechush Rav of Mitzrayim, so Moshe Rabbeinu was busy with something else, by seeking out the bones of Yosef. Everybody was busy, gathering, amassing wealth, and Moshe Rabbeinu had some other wealth in mind. He has to get the bones of Yosef the Tzaddik and bring them along with him to Eretz Yisrael. So Moshe wasn't particularly interested in amassing wealth, but for a joke it passed that Moshe got rich on the contributions of the Mishkan. So the Litzani Hadaya said that Moshe got rich because of the contributions which people gave to the Mishkan, and some money sort of pasted to him. So Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to give a cheshbon. He wanted to open up the books, let everybody see what I did with each penny. So when it came to the silver, Moshe Rabbeinu remembered that for 300,000 shekalim, that means the 600,000 machzas shekels which he received in silver from the Jews, he used that for the adonim, for the sockets. However, there was some more silver. What did he do with the rest of the silver? And it just slipped his mind. What did he do with it? It slipped his mind. What did he do with it? And he was in a dilemma, and it was quite humiliating. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know what to do, and all of a sudden, he got it. I reminded myself. I used it for the Vavim La'amudim. So the Medrash says that the Rabbeinu Shalom enlightened his eyes, and he reminded himself that he used those for the hooks, for the amudim. And the Megala Amulkais, from the Heilige Megala Amulkais, tells us that the neshama of Rabbi Akiva came and told him, you used it for the Vavim La'amudim. Needless to say, all this needs an explanation. The Alshach says that over ha'elef we have Azla Geiresh. The musical note over ha'elef is, it's read in the Sefer Torah this way, V'yas ha'elef, like an exclamation. Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu got it. Oh, I know what he did with that. I know what he did with that money. That was an exclamation from him. Baruch Hashem. He reminded himself. And the Megala Mulkais further says that the Aleph, that's a small Aleph of Vayikra, which was the neshama of Rabbi Akiva. If this evening will be long enough, we might come back to it. So, we'll go away on the tangent. It says, V'haya Eikev Tishma'an, in Parashas Eikev. It will be, in return, if you're going to listen to and you're going to obey the mitzvahs of the Torah, then Hashem is Baruch will keep His promise, which He promised to your forefathers, to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and you're going to be showered with blessings. So the Eikev can also mean at the end, because just like we use the word Reish for the head to mean the beginning, we use the word Eikev, the soul, to mean the end. So these Sfarim explain, look, the end is going to be that you're going to listen. Right? So you're going to go through all the process, the entire process of the Rebbeinu Shalom forcing you into keeping the Torah, all the troubles and all the tribulations which Klal Yisrael did go through and is going through. And what's going to be the stuff is going to be that everybody will do tshuva. You might as well do it now. And what are you waiting for? For your Eikev Tishmiyah. The Eikev, the end will be you're going to obey, you're going to observe the Torah. So what are you waiting for? Then there's another pshat, via Eikev Tishmiyah. This Rab Mord Chalechevich says, V'haya, whenever it says V'haya, it means a simcha. V'haya, a simcha will be Eikev, if at the end, Tishma'an, you're going to listen. In other words, the period of trial of Klal Yisrael is the last period right before Mashiach. It's the most difficult period, where you have to grasp on to Judaism, to Emunah, to faith. You have to grasp to it like to dear life to remain a mammon, to remain a believer. Because it's so difficult to believe today. The entire arena, the entire setting of the world is just set up to confuse the believer, to confuse the mammon. There was never a time when there was so much kfira, so much atheism like now. I believe I once told you the story of the Baal Shem Tov who traveled with his balagala, his driver, on a wagon, and towards them came the galach of the town, the priest. And it's customary that when a guy sees his galach, he crosses himself. And this driver didn't cross himself, and the Baal Shem Tov jumped off the wagon. He won't travel with a guy who doesn't cross himself when the Galach comes, because he has no emunah, he has no faith. Even a Geisha faith, let him have a Geisha faith, but no faith, an atheism, that he won't, with such a person, so wretched a driver, he won't travel with. Today we have that. The whole world is just steeped in atheism, and those of you who know some history knows that this was never duplicated in any time before. We never had that. There were Christian religions and Muslim religions, but entire governments and countries built on the principles of atheism, this we never had like today. Because today is the Nisayan of Emunah. This is our test, like the story which I once told you about the Chafetz Chaim and the Dibuk. This is the test today. This is the mitzvah which we have to be Mekayim today. It's the mitzvah of the generation. And being so, there are so many meniyas, there are so many stumble blocks, and there are so many so many bars barring the one that wants to believe from reaching true belief, because this is the mitzvah, to have mesiras nefesh, to give sacrifice, to offer sacrifices, and to struggle for the emunah. And this is our mission today. That's why our generation came down to this world. So the Ramat Chalachavich spoke about the last generation before Mashiach, and he said, V'haya means a simcha. A simcha will be Eikev Tishmiyam. If you're going to listen to Hashem, Eikev, and Ikvas of the Mashiach, in the end of the generations, Eikev, the soul, the bottommost part of the structure of a person, which is our generation. At this point, let's go back to Vayera. We have the Parsha of the Akedah. Rabban Shalom tested Abraham, and he told him to take his son Yitzchak up on the altar, and bring him up on the altar for a sacrifice, for a ayla alachat, to go to Yerushalayim and do this. So it was a test, and the pasuk tells us befeirish that it was a test. Avraham Avinu went through 10 nisyaynos. It says in the Mishnah in Avos, and the last one was the Akedah. But by none of them, the Torah tells us distinctly that it was a test. Here it says, V'alakim nisa es Avraham. The Rabban Shalom tested Avraham. And so it must have been a very special test, more than all those that preceded this 10th one. And what was the Nisayan of Avraham? What was the test? Let's analyze the test. The first test, in contrast to the last test. The first test was Ur Kasdim. Avraham Avinu, with by thinking and by using only truth as his measuring rod, came to the understanding that there is only one God, and anything else is false. There has to be one God who created heaven and earth, day and night, summer and winter, good and evil. Only one God created it, and he was convinced of that because he was a real thinker that was able to isolate truth from anything else which could have influenced his thinking. And he came to the understanding and the conviction that there's one God. And he fought for it. He preached. And he got into trouble with Nimrod. And Nimrod didn't like the idea because Nimrod claimed that he is God. And it came to a point where they just took Avraham Avinu because he refused to listen to Nimrod and stop preaching that there's one God. And they took Avraham Avinu and they threw him into the Kivshana Eish, into the fire. And there the big ness happened, the big miracle, and Avraham Avinu emerged alive and healthy from without even his clothing being scorched. He emerged from this Kivshana Eish, and it was a big Kiddush Hashem. And immediately afterwards, Vayomer Hashem al Avram, the Rabbanu Shalom appears to Avram, and he tells him, I am the God for whom you are ready to give away your life. And he introduced himself to him. Anihu Bal Habira, I am the conductor of the affairs of the world. And Avraham Avinu was like introduced to nevuah, to prophecy. Prophecy means direct contact with the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's nevuah. So till then, he worked. He only understood the Rabbeinu Shalom he arrived by theorizing and by thinking. But now he saw the Rabbeinu Shalom. He was a Navi. And there is no doubt about that. Once a person has nevuah and he sees with nevuah, he is convinced. He sees the Rabbeinu Shalom face to face. That was the first Nisayon, the first test. And then he went on and on to more difficult tests. You know, in Lashon HaKodesh, the word Nisayon means a test. It also means to raise, to promote. Nasais, to raise on high. No, like a nace means a flag, because it's high. So, you know, because in Lashon HaKodesh, which gives us an understanding, an insight into the true meaning and origin of each word, so, because the word was created with Lashon HaKodesh, so Lashon HaKodesh aren't arbitrary sounds, that mean things. Everything has the meaning of the words have a reason. So, therefore, it stands to reason that these two translations of Nes, of Nisayon, are related. And it's simple, because what's the purpose of a test? Why does the child have a test at the end of the semester? To determine whether he's going to be promoted or not. So nasai means to test, and nasai means to promote, because that's the purpose of the test. A point comes when he graduates. So after 10 semesters, each one having its tests, Avraham Avinu graduated with cum laude. Yeah, he got his degree that he is the Ma'amin, V'emin, V'Hashem, he believes in Hashem, and he graduated. So the last test certainly has to be much more difficult than the first test. After when he graduates from the 10th grade, of course that test is much more difficult than the one necessary for the promotion from the first grade. Well, on the surface, it would seem that the first test is more difficult than the last test. If anybody here, if the Rabbanu Shalom would have approached him with nevuah, with prophecy, and he sees the glory of Hashem speaking directly to him, and he tells him, go bring up your son for an Ayla, I'm sure anybody would have done it. The Rabbanu Shalom alone, the God, the master of the universe, commands him to do so. Of course, anybody would do it. But the first test where he didn't see the Rabbeinu Shalom yet, where he wasn't introduced to the Rabbeinu Shalom, but upon conviction, because of his conviction, he was ready to give away his life for the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's a difficult test, because whenever there's conviction against a person's interest, that's where rationalization starts playing, and you start thinking otherwise. So, of course, the last test isn't as difficult as the first test. So why all this fuss about the Nisayan of the Akedah when the first test was more difficult? Well, the Zohar HaKadosh answers that. It says, "Vayaras hamakim mimeirachik." Avraham Avinu saw the Rabbeinu Shalom from far. Makim means the Rabbeinu Shalom, like you have in the Agadah, Baruch HaMakim. The Rabbeinu Shalom seemed to him to be distant. Avraham Avinu was wrought with confusion. What's going on over here? He was all confused. He knew the Rabbeinu Shalom as the true God. And that's what our whole Emunah is based on, that the Rabbeinu Shalom never changes his mind. And that's why we know that this Torah will never be exchanged for another Torah, not like the other faiths have it. And God is not like a human that lies, and like a person who changes his mind. The Rabbeinu Shalom says and it doesn't do. The Rabbeinu Shalom says something and he isn't Mikayim, he doesn't fulfill it. So this Avraham Avinu knew is the character of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Hashem Elokeichem Emes. The Rabbeinu Shalom is true. So here the Rabbeinu Shalom has promised Avraham Avinu, a Jewish nation is going to come out of your son Yitzchak. After waiting so many years for Yitzchak to be born, at last he was born with a promise from Hashem that an entire nation, the chosen nation, is going to come out of Yitzchak. And here the Rabbeinu Shalom blows up this promise. And he says, go and shecht your son Yitzchak. So he was very confused. What's going to happen to the Rabbeinu Shalom's promise? So, this is a real Nisayan. Certain doubts started tormenting him, and he closed himself up. He barricaded himself against these doubts. He won't give them any admission into his mind and heart. And when the Satan came and started telling him, well, there's a way out, because I really have been eavesdropping, and I heard that Rabbeinu Shalom said there's going to be a sheep for the sacrifice, and not your son. So Avraham Avinu said to him, I know you, Satan. I know you for as many years as I'm alive. I already am acquainted and familiar with you as the Yetzer Hara. I won't believe you even if you say the truth. So that's what the Medrash tells us. So Avraham Avinu actually had a terrible Nisayan. He had to relinquish his idea of truth and of what's yosher, of what's just, and blindfold himself and say, I am not to ask any questions. I'm supposed to listen and obey, and my mind can never grasp the Rabbeinu Shalom. I know the Rabbeinu Shalom long enough and well enough, and I am going to believe even when I don't understand, even when I have kashas. That was the test of Avraham Avinu. And usually when somebody is wrought with kashas, the Rabbeinu Shalom is distant from him. He becomes aloof. The whole idea of the Rabbeinu Shalom being near and guiding and loving, all this dissipates. He sees the Rabbeinu Shalom far, far away. Vayaras hamakim meirachik. He saw the Rabbeinu Shalom from a distance. The Rabbeinu Shalom wasn't any more near to him as he has always experienced this feeling. Even at the first Nisayan, when he was thrown into the fire, He knew that the Rabbeinu Shalom was near to him, and now the Rabbeinu Shalom was far. He had to do something against his conscience, against his understanding, against all the ideas of that he had of what Hashem is. And that was a terrible Nisayan. The Nisayan was to believe even when it's difficult. That was a Nisayan. So, that was the big test. The big test. So that's why, after that, when the Malach came and said, don't touch Yitzchak, take him off the Mizbeach. So Avraham Avinu said, but Hashem told me I should put him, I should be V'halei Hashem L'Yayda, bring him up for an offering. So the Malach said, you obeyed that already. The Rebbeinu Shalom didn't tell you to kill Yitzchak. He said, take him up on the Mizbeach. You took him up and take him down. Now that's a very simple answer. Very simple. It makes so much sense. And a child of 6 years old who learns Chumash and Rashi and Parshas Vayera knows the answer already. If a child can grasp that answer that the Malach answered him, why couldn't Avraham Avinu grasp that answer before the Akedah? That the test is only to put him on the Mizbeach and not to take his life. Why didn't Avraham Avinu think of that? The answer to that is the pasuk. V'alakim Nisa Avraham. The Rebbeinu Shalom tested Avraham. If somebody is subjected to a test, it's no use. You can't fight the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Rebbeinu Shalom can take the most clever and wise of people and make him dumb. And when he needs an answer, he shouldn't know the answer. The Rebbeinu Shalom is Bekeya Chevrim. And he can also do the opposite also. He can open up the eyes of the stupid ones, and he can also close the eyes of the wise ones. So Avraham Avinu didn't, the great, learned, philosophical sage, Avraham Avinu couldn't figure out with his mind a little answer to the question that a 6-year-old child understands that without the Rebbe repeating it a second time. Because of the kidneys of them, that was the test. When we are tested, we don't know the answers. And it's no kasha. There is a klal. Mainse of a similar banim. The Ramban puts down this klal. There's a rule in the Torah. Mainse of a similar banim. Whatever happens to the fathers, that's a simon, that's what's going to happen to the children. And the Ramban goes through some of Bereishis with this klal. For instance, Avraham Avinu came to Eretz Yisrael. And then he had to leave Eretz Yisrael because of a famine, which means that his children, the family of Yankov, is going to leave Eretz Yisrael because of the famine. And where did Avraham Avinu go? To Mitzrayim. It means that his children, because of the famine, in the days of Yankov, will go to Mitzrayim. And then Sarah was taken into captivity, which meant it's a simon that the Jewish nation will be taken into captivity and bondage under Parai. And then afterwards, the Rabbeinu Shalom smote Parai with Negayim Gedalim, with a lot of terrible lashings, which means that the Mitzrayim are going to suffer 10 makas because they have taken into captivity the Klal Yisrael. And then and then Sarah was released, and she was given presents. That means that when the Jews are going to go to Mitzrayim, they're going to go out with riches. And that's how the Ramban goes through. Whatever happened, the life, the Avei Sagadayishim didn't live a private life. They lived the life of their offspring. Their life mirrored the future of Klal Yisrael. Whatever happened to them is like it was like a futurama. That's what's going to happen to Klal Yisrael. This is the klal which the Ramban puts down. Now, knowing this klal, we could apply it to everything that happens to the Avei. So we can say, if Avraham Avinu had to undergo 10 nisyanais, 10 tests, It means that the Jewish nation and its history will have to undergo 10 tests, of whatever nature the tests of Avraham Avinu were. And if the last test of Avraham Avinu was one of sfeikos, one of doubts, one of confusion, where it's very hard to believe, and you have to believe nevertheless, so that means that the last test of Klal Yisrael before Mashiach will come will be the test of the Akedah. The Nisayon of believing when it's hard to believe. The Nisayon of having kashas on the Rabbeinu Shalom. And when was there a generation that there were so many kashas on the Rabbeinu Shalom as our generation? Why the 6 million? Why? And somebody comes out with this book, why was he silent? And all this, and more and more. And the Kaifrim, those whose faith isn't a sturdy faith, like a true maimon, a true believer and observer of Torah mitzvahs, because only learning Torah and keeping mitzvahs nurture the emunah. That's the only thing that keeps... these are the nutrients of faith. Every time you do a mitzvah, every time you learn a blad of Gemara or a parsha of Chumash, every time you daven, you put on your tefillin, every time you keep Shabbos, you are taking an emunah pill. You're eating the bread of emunah. That's what keeps your emunah going. Those people don't do mitzvahs, and their entire Judaism is only theorizing and coming to mass meetings and writing articles in the magazines, and that's what their Judaism is, but not really keeping the mitzvahs, so those people can't believe. So therefore, when they are confronted with nisyanis, with tests, they fail. And they have a red mark there because they can't pass these tests. So when you have the most confusing happening in that Klal Yisrael ever experienced, the Holocaust. So of course they can't pass this test and still emerge as believers after such an experience. Now, we have a kasha on the Rabbeinu Shalom. It's true. It's a kasha. What's the answer to the kasha? When Mashiach will come, the answer will be so simple, we're going to laugh at ourselves. Why didn't we understand what this was all about? It's like the Chazaynish replied to somebody who asked him this question. Why did Rabbeinu Shalom destroy Klal Yisrael? So he said, supposing you would see a tailor, and you would see him taking a wonderful, a most expensive piece of silk, and then he takes the scissor and starts cutting away at that silk, and cuts and cuts and cuts, and ruins the silk. You're going to say, are you crazy? What's the matter with you? Why are you ruining the silk for? Well, you don't know how to make a silken blouse. The tailor knows what he's doing. We don't know the answer. When Mashiach will come and we're going to see why there was some tailoring done and what is the product of this tailoring, then we're going to know the answer and we're going to laugh at ourselves. As Yemari Schek Pino, we're going to laugh. Why didn't we know the answer? But now, you know why we don't know the answer? Because we're living through, in our generation, the 10th test. And when there is a test, you don't know the answer. That's the test. We have to believe. This is the calling of and the mission of our dial, to believe in the Rabbeinu Shalom. Now, this is the Nisayon of Ikvasa the Mashiach, of Vahaya Eikev Tishmayon. Listen to me in Eikev at the end. That's when it's going to be a simcha to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And now, after Avraham Avinu passed this test with flying colors, and he emerged as a perfect maimon, having good marks splendid marks on all the 10 tests, the Malach came and commended Avram Avinu, and he blessed him with all the blessings. Do you know why? Eikev asher shama Avram b'kaili. Because Avram listened to me in a condition of Eikev, when it was the soul, the bottom. Has no sensitivity. It's always in the dark. And when you spoke about this, you can stick it with a needle and it won't feel. We are unsensitive. We are in the dark, and we are experiencing now the Nisayan of Eikev, Ikvasa the Mashiach. And this is our test. Now, these 10 Nisyanis, following a certain order from the easy Nisayan to the last Nisayan, from Nisyanis when Avram Avinu was in light to the Nisayan when he was so much in the dark, everything that happens, you find it duplicated in many facets, in the Torah, in geography. You would find 10 certain geographical sites which are corresponding to these 10 tests. You would find it in time. You would find it on the calendar. The Nisayan of being in the dark, being in Hester Panim, being blindfolded, not knowing what's going on, and still believing in Hashem, that is the Nisayan which is called Adar, the 12th month, which is so far away from Nis, because Nis is on high, where you see everything. So when the Gemara says, Esther man ha-Torah menayin, how do we know Esther from the Torah? Where do we have the Torah predicting that there is going to be a Esther? It says, V'anoichi haster astir, I am going to hide my face. Hide, and then it says another time, hide. In other words, Esther isn't enough. It's haster astir. It's bad enough if we are 12 degrees away from the tap and we're in the dark, which is Hester. That's not bad enough, but it isn't enough. We sometimes are subjected to yet a 13th month, which is still far away from Nisan, from the source of Nisan and Nefla'is and glory to the Jewish nation, with Hatzalah, with salvation and being delivered from all their troubles from Mitzrayim and Matan Torah. We're 30 months away. We elaborated on this in the previous weeks. We're the 13th month. Our generation is the 13th month. Hester isn't enough. Anoichi haster astir. It still goes a degree still lower. A double Hester. Now, the 12th month is corresponding to the 12th Shevet, as we already have elaborated upon this. And then there is a 13th segment, those who are outside of the Shvatim. They're on the outside. They're not admitted into the Ananei Kavod. These are the sinners, the Avdei Avodah Zarah of Dan, who were rejected and expelled from the Ananei Kavod. And being that they were outside of the protection of the Ananei Kavod, so Amalek had a shalita on them. He was able to prevail upon them, and he was able to cause havoc in this particular part of the camp. They are the Neflatim, those who are expelled. And there is a Jewish machne, and those who are expelled from the machne. symbolic of that, and more than symbolic, there is a Mishkan, where the Rabbeinu Shalom dwells, because Mishkan means a dwelling place. The Mishkan consists of the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan, the Kodesh, and the Kodesh HaKodashim, and then the Chatzel, the court of the Mishkan, the courtyard, where we have the Mizbeach, and all the Karbanos are brought there. And around this Chatzel, to separate and cordon off the holy Chatzar HaKodesh from the outside, we have the Klaim, the curtains of the Mishkan. They're the mechitza, the wall. They serve like the wall today. And within is the Kedusha, and outside is the Chayil. And these Klayim are Mavdu ben Kodesh leChayil. They separate between the Chatzar HaKodesh and that which is mundane, which isn't the Chatzar HaKodesh. And the Bnei Yisrael contributed to the Mishkan. And they gave gold and silver and whatnot, precious gems, for the Mishkan, for the Chatzar HaKodesh, for the territory of Kedusha. All their contributions went into the Kedusha. And the 600,000 machzas hashekels, which the Bnei Yisrael gave, they were the sockets upon which the entire Kedusha was constructed. The entire Mishkan was resting upon these sockets, these 100 adanim made of the silver which came from their machzas hashekel. So, and then there were other contributions, and some of them went for these kalim of the Mishkan, and those kalim, and some of them went for the kapper mizbeach in the yard of the Mishkan, and whatever they went for. But that which counts the Jews, which gives each Jew an individuality in the eyes of Hashem, you are being counted, and therefore you can't give more and you can't give less, because then you're going to confuse the count. Yidden are counted by the Adanim, by those sockets which support the entire Mishkan. But there were some Jews, those who were above the number of 600,000, who weren't deserving that their money should support the entire Mishkan, and they should be the Adanim of the Mishkan. If there was a surplus, and they needed 100 Adanim, and the machzas hashekels of the 600,000 Jews went into these Adanim, and the surplus was used for something else, but not for the Adanim, not for the support of the Mishkan. And unfortunately, the surplus was not admitted into the Mishkan. Those half of shekels which expressed the character and the individuality of those surplus Jews were expelled from the Mishkan, because they were the sinners at the Shevet Dan. And where did they find their place? On the outside of the Gevul of the Mishkan. They were the Vavim lo Amudim. They were the hooks that protruded from the Amudim, from the pillars, and upon those hooks, the Klayim, the Mechitza, the wall which separated between Kodesh and Chayil, this Mechitza, this wall, was hung upon these hooks, and the head of the hooks protruded outside of those curtains, and they were on the exterior of the Chatzar HaKodesh. And exactly what happened to the Shevet Dan who are expelled from the Mishkan. Their machzas hashekel, their very individuality was expelled from the Mishkan, just like they as persons were expelled from the Chatzar HaKodesh. And being that they are on the external part of the Mishkan, they're outside of the Mishkan. And Moshe Rabbeinu built the Mishkan to be a Makim Shechina, so that the Shechina, the Kedusha, should dwell there. But these Vavim La'amudim, they were protruding where the Shechina does not dwell, which isn't Moshe Rabbeinu's domains. These people, like David HaMelech would call them, are Shcheichei Elikim. They are forgotten by God. God deliberately forgets them. In other words, you forget me, I forget you. These are Shcheichei Elikim, they were forgotten. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu, whose heart, whose mind, whose very neshama is tuned to Klal Yisrael, who find themselves in the Chatzar HaKodesh, in the Holy Court, so he forgot these machzas hashekels. What did he do with them? Why did he forget the machzas hashekels? Because the donors of the machzas hashekels are forgotten neshamas. So what happens to them? Happens to their extension, to the money which comes from them, which is an extension of their neshama. So that's why Moshe Rabbeinu forgot what happened to the Elef. He forgot. Moshe Rabbeinu never forgot anything in the Torah, but these are outside of the Torah. These are the forgotten ones. These are the last 8 psukim of the Torah, which weren't written according to one sheet in the Gemara by Moshe Rabbeinu, and they represent the halachis which were forgotten by at the passing away of Moshe Rabbeinu. They are forgotten neshamas because they come from the olam of Shekha. They come from because they forgot the Rabbeinu Shalom. Vatishkach Hashem Eisach, you forgot your God. Is Vatayim Atziyan Azavani Hashem Hashem Shcheichani. That is Galus. It's seemingly, although it isn't absolute truth, but it seems on the surface that they're forgotten. Now, there are 600,000 Isiyas in the Sefer Torah, corresponding to the 600,000 Neshamas, corresponding to these 600,000 half Machzas HaShekels, which were fortunate enough to become the Adanim in the Beis HaMikdash. So, and these are the Isiyas of the Sefer Torah. And those who are expelled cannot align themselves, and they cannot assign themselves to Isiyas. They don't belong to the Isiyas. Because if they had been Isiyas, they would have been the Adanim in the Mishkan. They would have been from the 600,000 Isiyas, which constituted the Adanim of the Mishkan. So these aren't assigned to Isiyas. However, what does the tzaddik do? The tzaddik is mechaber of them. The tzaddik connects them to the Isiyas. On top of the Isiyas, in some there are several Isiyas in the Sefer Torah which spell Tumah, Satan, and these are the Isiyas Shatnez Gatz, and Shin Ayin Tes Nun Zayin, and Gimel Tzadik. These Isiyas have little crowns on top of them in the Sefer Torah. When you get an Aliyah in the Sefer Torah, you will see them. Well, I think I have a little siddur that has it. This siddur is written in Ksava Shilvis with the Isiyas of the Sefer Torah. So you see on top of this ayin, three little extensions, 3 little thin little hairs coming out. These are called the kites. The ksagim of the ksagim, the little crowns on top of the Isiyas. They're not the very ice. They're just extending from the ice. They have been attached to the ice, and they are so small that they don't spoil the character of the ice, and the ice still remains an ice. Moshe Rabbeinu gave the Torah, and there's a very interesting Gemara in Menachos, which needs a lot of explanation, but we'll try to explain it briefly now. Moshe Rabbeinu went up in the Har Sinai, and the Gemara tells us that he saw Rabbi Akiva darshaning the kaitzim, the ksarim of the Isis. Krutzaisav Tautalim, the Gemara says about Rabbi Akiva. Al kol kaitz v'kaitz darash tilei tilim shalalachis. When we learn Gemara, we see that the Gemara darshans the Isis of the Sefer Torah. Rabbi Akiva did more than that. He even darshaned those small little extensions, and he included them into the Torah and made drashes and halachis from them. That was Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was able to darshan the kites and those little extensions, those little hairs sticking out from the Isis. Now, Rabbi Akiva was darshaning Seides of the Torah, the secrets of the Torah, such profound secrets that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand them. And Moshe Rabbeinu felt bad. I don't understand words of the Torah. Rabbi Akiva knows more than me. After Rabbi Akiva's drasha, Moshe Rabbeinu asked Rabbi Akiva, where do you get these Seides of Torah from? So Rabbi Akiva answered, these are halacha la Moshe miSinai. This was given to Moshe on the Har Sinai. And Moshe Rabbeinu was gratified at this answer. And the Maral explains that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand the kaitzim of the Isis. He didn't understand the drashas, the great secrets that come from those little extensions of the Isis, not because of Moshe Rabbeinu's inadequacy, because he can't understand them. On the contrary, because Moshe Rabbeinu is the Etzem HaTorah. He is the Isis of the Torah. There are 600,000 Isis in the Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu is the Neshama HaKeleles. He includes all the 600,000 Isis. So therefore, he darshans the guf of the Torah, the gufei Torah, the Isis of the Torah, and that's the real Torah. Rabbi Akiva, who darshan the kaitzim are above the Isis, and they're more profound because they're higher, they're above the Isis, but they have a disadvantage. They're not the guf of the Isis of the Torah. So Moshe Rabbeinu, because of this quality that he is mamish the Isis of the Torah, he sticks to the Isis, to the guf of the Torah, and he doesn't go off to the extensions. Rabbi Akiva went off to the extensions. Now, these 600,000 Isis, which are translated into the 100 Adanim, are the gufim of the Torah. The 600,000 main Jews, main Neshamas, which gave the Machzos HaShekels, and they became the supporters of the Mishkan. However, those who were the surplus were on the outside of the Mishkan. They're outside of the Isis. But who darshans them? Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva knows the secret of every Jew, even those expelled Jews. He knows how to attach them back to Klal Yisrael, and to find out that they're even sometimes those who were expelled, those who are rejected, can sometimes become more profound than the very ice itself. There's deeper secrets in them. You just have to uncover and unearth those secrets which are hidden in those Isis of the expelled ones, of the rejected ones. And every Jew has gufei Torah in himself, and perhaps there is even more promise in the rejected ones. When the time will come and these Isis, the Nekudais will be, the Ksarim, these extensions will be darshaned. Now I mentioned before that there are 7 Isis in the Sefer Torah where the Satan has a shlita, where the Satan has a certain domain, it's his. He has a shlita there. And these are the 7 Isis, Shatnez Gats. And if you're going to look in the Bayah Heitev and Hilchos Tefillin in the Shulchan Aruch, you're going to find that Shatnez, no, we can't wear Shatnez, wool and linen together. Shatnez is the Isis Satan Az, a terrible Satan. And Gatz, he says over there, is a big klippe. It's also from the hordes of the Satan. And these are 7 Isis where the klippe, where the Satan has a shalita. He has a power there. And because we connect those extensions to these 7 Isis, we nullify and we neutralize the Satan, that he shouldn't be able to damage these Isis, which ordinarily could be the seat of the Satan, and from where he operates. So these rejected Jews, they are the domains of the Satan, and the Satan reigns in their hearts, and he is at command. However, when somebody like Rabbi Akiva would come and darshan the Isis and show that they're also part of Klal Yisrael, and they're going to reach out to them and connect them to the Isis, so then, they're going to be profound Isis to such a degree that they express certain nuances of Kedusha that even the Isis alone don't express. So that's what Rabbi Akiva did. And when Moshe Rabbeinu computed the sum total of what he did with all the silver, he forgot what he did with the surplus over the 600,000 Jews. What did he do with the extra matzahs shekels? Why did he forget? Because those who contributed the surplus, they're on the outside. Along came Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is the one who gives value. He gives meaning to these Isis, and he connects them. He's machad of them. He connects them to the Kedusha. And he reminded Moshe Rabbeinu where these Isis are. They're part of Klal Yisrael. They're not rejected. So the pasuk says Moshe Rabbeinu forgot what he did with those Isis, and Rabbi Akiva came and reminded him. So the pasuk says V'yasra elef. And that 1,000, Ushva Mayas V'chamishin V'shivim, the extra shkalim that came from those rejected Jews, the 13th month, Asa, he made Vavim La'amudim. Vavim means a connection. A Vav means a connecting ice. A Vav means a nail with a head. And it connects 2 pieces of wood together. In the Chumash, a Vav connects 2 words together. It means and. V'es, and. The Vav means and. So these are Vavim Lamudim. They may be on the outside of the Chatzar HaKodesh, but they're connected. V'tzipa Rashayim, and he played at their heads, and he put the Tagim over them. V'chishak Oisam, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu expressed his cheshik. The Kadosh Baruch Hu expressed his desire and his lovingness to these Jews. Cheshik, lovingness. This is what Rabbi Akiva did by darshaning the Tagim when Moshe Rabbeinu didn't darshan the Tagim. He darshaned to these Jews. And these are the Vavim Lamudim. Purim is, especially the way it comes out this year, it's the 13th month. Purim this year is in a month which is outside of the machna of 12 months. It's a rejected Chodesh. It's the 13th. Finds no place in anywhere. And we're Mechab, and Purim is the month for the rejectees. Purim is the month when the Rebbeinu Shalom opens up the Sharei Rachamim, the doors of mercy, and it's the month that Jews did tshuva, and they were accepted by the Rebbeinu Shalom. And they all became Jews. Amei Yoretz can mean the Goyim, and Amei Yoretz also means the estranged ones. Mesyadim, they became Jews. I once said by our Purim Siddur, which we have in our Beis HaKnesses, a word which is very dear to me. There was this big Rosh Hashiva in Yerushalayim, Rabbi Salman Meltzer. He was a father-in-law of Rabban Kotler, and he came with a taina to the Rav of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Yozer Chaim Sonnenfeld, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnefeld was a great tzaddik and a goyin olam. And Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnefeld went to the mikveh every day and to be mitayah himself, to daven and to learn with purity, with tahara, with kedusha. And Rabbi Zalman said, "You are such a guy, and your Torah is so dear to the Rabbeinu Shalom. Why do you spend time and waste time in going to the mikveh when in those few moments you can learn?" So Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnefeld answered him, when a guy wants to convert and become a Jew, how does he become a Jew? By toiveling in the mikveh. If he is a male, he's mala himself, he goes through circumcision, and he toivels in the mikveh. A female, toivels in the mikveh, and this is the procedure of geirus. That's how they become a Jew. If mikveh can transform a guy into a Jew, can't it really transform a Jew into a better Jew? So that's what Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnefeld answered him. And so Rav Meltzer started going to the mikveh himself. Lithuanian in origin as he was. So I paraphrased that. The Torah says, the Megillah tells us, Rabbi Meyam Eyaros Misyadim, that because of the Nes of Purim, many Goyim converted to Judaism. If Purim can make from a Goy a Jew, can't Purim make from a Jew a better Jew? Purim reaches all the way down. The Sfarim tell us that's the difference between Purim and Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippurim, you have to go up in the heights to the Kisei HaKavod. You have to go up. Purim comes down to you. But it's the same thing. Tshuva comes down to us. And therefore, we do some very funny things in Purim, things which on the surface aren't understood. You will find people drinking on Purim. We don't drink. We find so many times in the Torah and in the Nevi'im and Ksuvim and in the Gemara, we find very much discouragement as far as alcohol is concerned. Don't drink. The Torah right away tells us the first sin of Adam Rishon was that he drank from the wine which Chava squeezed out from the grapes of the Eitz Hadas. That was the origin of all sin. And the next said he spoiled things that way. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to polish up things again, and Noach comes out, and the first thing he does was he drinks wine. This again, repeat, a rerun of Adam Rishon. And we're not supposed to drink. The Torah teaches us not to drink. Shlomo HaMelech was reprimanded by his mother. You should drink, Shlomo. He drank in the night that he married the daughter of Pari, and because of that he got up late the next morning to open up the doors of the Beis HaMikdash. And she reprimanded him. And the Chazal tells us that she spanked him. She actually spanked him. The Queen Mother spanked Shlomo HaMelech. You drink? And we're told not to drink. And we drink, of all things. You know, the most disgusting situation in which a person can find himself is being drunk. And it's a very wretched and low situation when a person is drunk. And so we want to show in our lowest conditions, we are still Jews. And we surrender our das, our thought to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and we drink, and we give away our das, adalaya, that we don't know. We drink to the point of not knowing. I don't advocate drinking for any or one of us here, including myself. That's only for those who know how to drink. There's a special art in drinking like a Jew, and in our generation there are very few who know this art. But anyway, just 2 or 3 generations ago, the biggest Amaras was able to drink like a Jew. Today the Talmid and Chachamim don't know how to drink, and they don't do any credit. They don't do any credit to Purim by drinking. So we're Mikayim, like the Ramah says. We just drink a little bit more than we generally do, and with that we're Mikayim Chayvad L'Psumi B'Puria. that you're supposed to drink on Purim. But this is what Purim is, and to show that in our lowest matzav, in the most degenerate condition, we're Jews and we're favored by Hashem. And the Rebbeinu Shalom loves us. The Vavim Lamudim connect every Jew to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Tzipar Hashem v'chishak Eisam. And the Rebbeinu Shalom on Purim, more than any other day in the year, especially if it comes out on Purim Sheni, that's still dark, more than any other day in the year, the Rebbeinu Shalom expresses his love to Klal Yisrael by the Nisim and by the Shefa Kodesh, by the bounty of Kedusha which Rebbeinu Shalom showers down upon each Yid when Purim comes.